All right, guys, welcome to another podcast. So, obviously, we're going to be talking about the World Schools Festival 2019. And, obviously, it's finally drawn to a close. And I think it was a great initiative and idea, but I think some of the execution was lacking, which I'll talk about a bit later. So, just today, I'm going to go over the results for days 3 and 4. And as promised, discuss the good, the bad, and the fugly. And finally, I'll be going over who I think was the team of the tournament. So, let's just get straight into it. Day 3, the Western Province Invitation played the Zambezi Steelers, and as you'll remember, the Western Province Invitation were completely thrashed by the World Schools 15. They had a close win over there, 33-30. Then Sachs played the World Schools 15, 15-25 loss. The World Schools 15 game against the Western Province Invitation game, the first one, that wasn't available on the stream, so I wasn't able to analyze that much. But the Sachs World Schools 15, quite a well-balanced match, quite an interesting match. I really want you guys to keep an eye on a guy named Jared Taylor. He played a bloody great game. He was man of the match for the first match, and he was man of the match for the second match. And he was in the SA Schools team last year, so as a grade 11 he made the SA Schools, so probably a sure-in for this year. Then Glenwood played the AP Dragons, the Africa Pacific Dragons, 33-10 win for Glenwood. Didn't watch much of the match, to be honest with you. I sort of felt I'd know the result beforehand, and I wasn't too encouraged by Glenwood's performance against John McGlashan, so I didn't watch too much of that. But from the little I saw, Glenwood was slightly improved, but still a bit scrappy, and I think it's going to be a long season for Glenwood. They're definitely not even close to as strong as they were last year. Then Poljim and Hartbury, 41-12 win for Poljim. Last time I mentioned that Hartbury were missing 3 England schools players, but it turns out they're actually missing 11 international players. I think they got people from all over the UK represented, so they're playing in the Junior Six Nations, and it showed. Look, Poljim were great value for money. Great players, great backline, solid forwards. Apparently a lot of their players are on grade 11, so it's going to be a very, very exciting team next year, like I keep on saying. So they had a 41-12 win over Hartbury. Hartbury weren't that impressive, compared to last year, a lot weaker than they were last year, so hopefully they can come with a stronger side next year. And then Monument played John McGlashan, 48-10 win there for Monument. A lot of errors on the Monument side. They got a very dangerous backline. There's one player in particular who I really liked, and that was the fullback Goodman. Now, they just weren't able to penetrate the line. The forwards were pretty dominant, but the McGlashan forwards didn't stand back. But as soon as they moved their fullback into pivot, into first receiver fly-off, it completely changed the dynamic of the game. He opened up the gaps, created space. So I think if Monument really want to move forward, they need to move that guy to fly off. I think they could have a very exciting season if Goodman's playing fly off with him this year. Then on to day 4, fixtures. So we start off with Bola and Lundberg against USA Schools. As you can see, 71-3. Completely pointless to bring an American team over unless it's the American under-18 national team. Scores like this aren't very useful. And then Hilton against Italian All-Stars, 32-15. Not much to write home about this game. Look, guys, the invitational teams and all the rest of it is a very pointless exercise to bring them over. They only got a couple of weeks to plan, and you're playing against guys that have been playing together possibly since they're 13, 14 years old. You know what I mean? So they really need to stop with this invitational side thing, because it doesn't make for great rugby, to be honest with you. This game was one of the poorer games of the tournament. And then Grey College played Southland, and I say it again, like a stuck record. 54-0 to Grey, but they just weren't impressive. They just were not impressive. Nothing clicked, a lot of mistakes. As individual, they got individual players that I feel that are fantastic and will make SA Schools, but they just don't seem to be clicking as a team. And I must give a shout out to the Southland number 8. Southland had a very simple tactic. What they're going to do is they're going to play the ball to their big number 8, and he was going to crash over the advantage line. Now, that would work for the first 5 to 10 minutes of the game. But, you can't expect this guy to run all game. But he did. He ran the majority of the game, and he was rightly named man of the match. So you got to consider how good this kid is. if he was named man of the match in a game his team lost 54-0. And then we had Affies against Christchurch Boys. It was a draw, 31-31. And look, I don't want to take anything away from Christchurch Boys, but Affies were atrocious. They were absolutely atrocious. I mean, they didn't play like a top 30 school, never mind a top 10 school. They were just atrocious. There were just so many errors. I mean, it was so frustrating to watch. And then I had an epiphany, guys. I had a real epiphany. I looked at this Affies team playing, and I thought to myself, my God, it's like watching the Bulls or the Sharks or one of the South African Super Rugby teams, the Stormers, whoever. I mean, the Lions are the only team that play with a bit of an expansive game in South African rugby. But when I watched Affies play, I felt like I was watching a South African Super Rugby team. And that just goes to show you the core root of our problem. A lot of people saying, why can't we translate the success from junior level to senior level? And it's simple. We just got shit coaching. Grey, Porus, a lot of the other schools, you can see their backline play, the way they open up the gaps, etc. They're very, very well coached and they're well drilled. Affies just were like a typical South African Super Rugby team, bashing the ball forward with their forwards, backline making mistakes, not being able to find the gaps and open up space. They were just absolutely shocking. Having said that, Christchurch Boys was definitely a much improved performance. But let me put it like this. If Affies had played Porus or Grey, they would have lost by 60 to 70 points. They would have been put away. They just couldn't get through the Christchurch backline in the same way that Grey did. It was a very, very disappointing performance from Affies. And then the final game was Porus against Napier Boys, and 62-7 win for Porus. And let me just tell you guys, this team is incredible. They're going to be going to the Sanex Festival soon, and they just look like the real deal. Like they look like a solid outfit. Now, someone mentioned that, you know, Porus have only played 2 games so far. Grey and some of the other schools have played Noordsate, and now they're playing in this tournament. So you're talking about 4 games in the space of like a week or just over a week. So that is one factor to consider, yes. But like I said, Grey have been failing to click from their first game that I've seen them play. Porus just clicked immediately. I mean, Napier are not a strong, not a completely weak school. They're actually a pretty strong school. But Porus were just dominant. And again, it was the forwards. Now, Napier's forwards aren't a joke. If you watch the Boland Landbou versus Napier Boys game, the Napier Boys completely demolished the Boland Landbou pack. Completely demolished them. The opposite happened this time. The Porus team completely dominated the Napier Boys team in terms of the forwards. And if your forwards can't provide ball to your backline, what chance do you have? So the Maroon machine marches on, and definitely the real deal. So the good, the bad, and the fugly. All right, now I'm going to do a video a bit later on with some ideas about how we can improve this festival and all the rest of it. So this is just a brief overview. So for me, the good was the spirit in which the game was played. There's a lot of open, expansive rugby. What I liked was how the youngsters all got together and huddled after games and, you know, had a chat with each other. There seemed to be a lot of friendships formed, a lot of camaraderie and all the rest of that. So I think it sort of lived up to its slogan, you know, the spirit of the game or whatever it is for the World Schools Festival. So I think in terms of that goal, they really achieved their goal. The bad was the crowds. Good Lord, what a disappointment. There's hardly anyone at the games. And if you take a look at the festival last year when it was held in Paarl, it was completely packed to the rafters. The stadium was packed. They moved from Paarl to Stellenbosch because they wanted more space for the crowds they anticipated coming. The crowds never came. And then finally, the fugly. And the fugly is without a doubt the refereeing. I mean, I've never seen such poor refereeing in my life. And this is the thing. If you're going to hold a prestigious tournament like this, you can't play around with the quality of your refs. The linesmen are shocking. They had no idea what the hell was going on. I got to calm down with my swearing a bit. So yeah, I was about to say something else, but the refs were, let's just say, terrible. And I want to use a lot stronger language than just terrible. They were shocking. I mean, there was a try scored by Paul Jim against AP Dragons that even the player from Paul looked completely shocked when the referee awarded the try. There was times of kickoff when the guys were completely offside. Now, this is what rugby players do. At kickoff, they'll try and take inches. And if you don't notice the inches, those inches will become yards. And there's so many times where you could see the guy kicking off and half the team was in front of the kicker. So that's what made a lot of the receivers during the kickoffs struggled a bit, and it made it look a lot more competitive. I've never seen so much turnover from kickoffs as I've seen in this tournament, and that's because of the really, really terrible linesmen and refereeing, and they definitely got to up the quality. I mean, Jonathan Kaplan refereed one or two of the games, I think, and bring in that caliber of referee. Don't come with your Saru affirmative action. We're giving the disadvantaged people a chance. Not on the international stage, please, because it's a goddamn embarrassment. Anyway, so my team of the tournament. So at fullback, I got Herschel Goodman from Monument. Fantastic player, silky smooth. I think he'll definitely be a shoo-in for SA Schools. In fact, most of these guys will be, surely. Then on the wings, I got Stravino Jacobs from Paul Jim and Luke Berger from Porus. A lot of pace, a lot of ability to open up the game. Stravino Jacobs was at last year's tournament and was the SA Schools player last year. Leslie Buerta from Grey College is my inside centre. This guy had a great tournament. Now, he played wing for Grey last year, and I was initially a bit confused about him making the transition to centre, but he did more than pay dividends. I mean, this guy's a really, really fantastic player, and if he doesn't make the SA Schools team, it's gonna be a real travesty. Outside centre, Henko van Wyk from Monument. Hell of a tournament for him as well. The guy's a very exciting runner. Now, between him and Herschel Goodman, that Monument backline is exciting. It can really be exciting. But what I would do is I'd move Herschel Goodman into the fly-off position. This guy's really, really a special player, guys. Keep an eye on him. And then I've got at fly-off, I've got Cade Volhuter from Porus. What a player. What a player. We played for the first team last year as well, but he was playing fullback. I think they had an SA Schools fly-off last year. Great tournament from this guy, and he's definitely got a bright future in the game. He's got a hell of a boot on him. Scrummy, I got Nico Steyn from Glenwood. One of the few shining lights for the Glenwood team, in my opinion. I thought he was really, really fantastic. Definitely a talented player, and as far as I know, he made the SA Sevens team, so I'm very excited to see more of him this season. It's just, he did a lot of good work in this tournament, and that's with a relatively weak pack in front of him. So I think he's definitely someone to watch out for. And then at number 8, I wanted to put that Southland 8th man in, because, look, in the first game against Porus, he played his heart out. In the game against Grey, he was a man of the match, despite his team losing 54-0. Very fantastic player, but I couldn't look past Jared Cairns from Porus. I mean, this guy just had a magic tournament, real leader, and another player that should walk into the SA Schools team. And then my flanks, Jared Taylor from the World Invitation 15. Jared Taylor, of course, Selborne. I've talked about him in a previous video about players to watch this year. Very, very good player. Very exciting future. Tough, strong as nails. Got a bit of a temper on him. He needs to control that temper. Otherwise, he could find himself in a bit of trouble. But otherwise, very, very talented player. Other flank was George Crenier from Grey College. I think he played lock last year for them, moved on to the flank. Real workhorse, strong, solid. Seems to be the leader in that Grey forward pack. And then at locks, I got Dylan Deleu from Porus. He will walk into the SA Schools side this year. He'll walk into it. There's not going to be a problem for him to make SA Schools. This guy's very, very talented. And the other one was Danwich Beekers from Grey. Got through a lot of work. Very solid in the lineouts. Really rate the kid. And then my props, I've got Heiko Polman from Monument. I always like to see a prop that likes to run around a little bit, and this guy was quite effective in the loose play. Very solid scrummager, but you can't really say he was challenged that much based on the opposition that he played. But very, very interesting player, and I really enjoyed watching him play. And then my hooker is Maring Aberson from Porus. Very solid player, fantastic. I mean, the wind there at that festival was ridiculous, and this guy didn't put a foot wrong in terms of the lineouts. He was good in the loose play, good at clearing out the rucks. Very, very solid player. You can't say flashy. You can just say he's a workhorse that does the basics right, and he's a team player. I really, really am a big fan of the hooker from Porus. And then the final one, and possibly my player of the tournament, Robbie Rogers, the prop from Porus. Son of Heinrich Rogers, who's a South African prop. Now, he was part of the Porus front row from last year, and they were the best front row in South Africa by a country mile. He had a great tournament. I think he scored a couple of tries in the final match of the tournament. but he's a beast, eh? I mean, this guy can scrum like nobody's business. He gets around the field pretty mobile for a big guy. He's always willing to take on the contact. And what I like about him, what I really, really like about Robbie Rogers is that you see at the point of impact, he stays very calm at the point of impact, and he's always looking for an offload. If you can't see the offload, he'll go down to the ground and make sure that the ball gets recycled pretty quickly. He's a very special player, and I'm very, very sure he'll make the SA Schools team this year. Unfortunately, only one player from the rest of the world who's also South African, but there just wasn't that quality from the New Zealand teams this year, unfortunately. They had some good players. I'm look forward to see how they will do in the New Zealand season. Porus are going to Sanix, like I said. They'll be playing St. Peter's or an Auckland school, so that'll be an interesting matchup. So we can sort of see the result, as they'll be playing the Auckland League against the top schools. So we can sort of gauge the relative strength of each nation based on that. But otherwise, the tournament wasn't exceptional. But I enjoyed it, and I think it's only going to go from strength to strength. We're only in the second year, guys. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching. Appreciate everyone that's subscribed, and all the comments and the feedback is fantastic. I will be releasing a video at a later stage, sort of recommendations to Karen, the organizers of the festival, where I think things could be improved. And I'm busy looking at how to upload the videos of the games, the highlights, and all the rest of that. It's going to take me a bit of time, so we'll see how that goes. But otherwise, I'll be back on another podcast soon, and like I said, talking about sort of improvements I think the festival can make and all the rest of that. And leave your comments below about some sort of topics you'd like me to discuss. Just don't ask me to discuss bloody Super Rugby. I'm not watching that shit. This is exactly how my whole thing works now. During the Super Rugby season, I watch Six Nations and I watch school rugby, and as soon as the international window opens, then I'll start watching the international games. I don't watch Super Rugby. It's horseshit. Horrible, horrible, horrible. Anyway, guys, have a great week further. Cheers, bye.